Most people assume that if you're smart, you'll eventually get rich. But in reality, plenty of smart people stay broke, not because they don't understand money, but because of one choice they never master: how they make financial decisions. That one choice changes everything. Better decisions lead to better outcomes in your career, investments, and even your daily spending. In this video, I'll show you 8 decision traps that sabotage smart people's wealth, plus the simple shifts that turn them into long-term advantages. So let's start with the first trap, and it's one that we all fall into: taking every opinion at face value. The other day, I watched a TED Talk by Ray Dalio, the founder of Bridgewater Associates, one of the largest hedge funds in the world. He promotes an idea meritocracy. The best ideas win no matter who they come from. At this company, they even use an AI tool to minimize bias and make decisions more rational. And in one meeting, employees rated the speaker in real time. Ray himself was speaking, and one colleague rated him a 3 out of 10. At first glance, this looks terrible, but there's actually some nuance to it. Other ratings from that same meeting ranged from 3 to 9. One single opinion made it look bad. The bigger picture, however, told a different story. Sometimes we give too much weight to one voice, but opinions are subjective snapshots, not absolute truths. Context is everything. For example, a colleague says that's a bad investment, or a family member says you'd be crazy to quit that job, and suddenly you're second-guessing yourself. So how do you know which opinions to take seriously? Here are some questions you can ask yourself. Who is giving the opinion? Do they actually have expertise or speak from experience? Is this feedback similar to what others are saying, or is it an outlier? Does it align with my goals and values? The point isn't to ignore criticism. It's to evaluate it rationally. When you zoom out and consider multiple perspectives, you make better decisions and stop letting one voice derail you. And speaking of goals and values, at the end of the day, no decision framework matters if you're not clear on your values. Because money is a tool and not the goal. You don't win by dying with the biggest amount on your bank account. You win by using money to design a meaningful life. Ask yourself, what do I really value? Freedom, stability, growth, relationships. Let's say you value stability, chasing the next risky crypto project because an expert told you it's the future will only create anxiety. Or maybe you value freedom. Working overtime for a promotion might sound smart, but if it takes all your time away, you're betraying yourself. Here's a quick exercise that you can do. Write down your top 3 values. And next time you're facing a big decision, ask, does this choice support these values? If the answer is yes, then it's aligned. And if the answer is no, walk away. Aligning decisions with values means you don't just look successful on paper. It means you actually feel fulfilled. But there is more to the equation of securing your financial future. We live in a world of information overload. Every day there is a new headline. This stock will double. This is the secret to health. But facts without context can be dangerous. And in finance, rushing into decisions with weak evidence can cost you thousands. Take Enchroma, the company that sells glasses, claiming to let colorblind people see colors. Ran their own study, which conveniently supported their claims. But when independent researchers looked closer, the results didn't hold up. Why? Because the studies had tiny sample sizes, no proper control groups, and in some cases were led by people with a financial interest in the company. That makes the results much less reliable. Now, here's an important fact. Sample size isn't everything. In quantitative research, like surveys or clinical trials, you generally want large representative samples, so the findings apply to the broader population. In qualitative research, like interviews or focus groups, smaller samples can still be valid, but the purpose is different. It's about depth of understanding, not broad generalization. So the key isn't just the number of participants, it's whether the method matches the claim. If a company is claiming our product works for everyone, but their study only tested 10 people with no control group, it's a red flag. When I was writing my bachelor thesis, the quality and how representative a study is was actually crucial. So here are 4 quick filters that you can use. Sample size. Is it large enough to support the claim, or is it more anecdotal? Funding. Who paid for the study? And do they benefit if the results are positive? Controls. Was there a comparison group to test real effects? Peer review. Did independent experts check the methods and conclusions? So before you invest, commit, or spend, always double-check the quality of your information. Reliable decisions come from reliable data. But what are the concrete tools you can use to tie all of it together? Here's something I've learned the hard way. I was staring down a big decision a few years ago. Should I accept the promotion that would increase my salary but would also demand longer hours, or stay in my current role that supported my lifestyle freedom. I went in circles, overthinking everything for weeks, until one evening when I grabbed the pen and paper and just wrote everything down. Within 15 minutes, the answer became clear. And here's the science behind it. Decision clarity doesn't come from overthinking. It comes from externalizing our thoughts. Writing removes emotional clutter and reveals what truly matters. For example, studies have found that using distraction during emotionally loaded choices, like moving attention away from feelings, leads to less biased and more balanced decisions. This mirrors the effect of writing things down. It shifts you from internal chaos to external clarity. Here's how you can do it yourself. Write down a full pros and cons list, completely unfiltered. Let all thoughts flow, even the messy ones. Assign importance. Not every item weighs the same. Highlight the few that matter the most. Check against your values and ask, does this choice align with my long-term goals, lifestyle, and purpose? The power here is simple. Clarity doesn't come from thinking harder. It comes from making your thinking visible. And the next point is something that we don't talk about enough. Decision fatigue. Roy Baumeister coined the term after finding that the more choices you make throughout a day, the worse your decisions get. Think of your brain like a smartphone battery. At 9 a.m., fully charged. By 6 p.m., after emails, meetings, errands, and 100 tiny choices, you're running on 10%. And when you're drained, you default to what's easiest and not what's best. That's why judges in a famous Stanford study were more likely to grant parole in the morning than in the afternoon. Some cases, different outcomes, because of decision fatigue. So how do you protect your financial decisions from this? Save important choices for when you're most alert. For example, after breaks, in the morning, or during times when you're less stressed. Automate small decisions, recurring transfers, bill pay, and meal prepping. Create routines that remove constant decision-making. This way, your limited decision-making energy is reserved for the decisions that actually shape your financial future. This one actually hits very close to home. A friend of mine once lost a big chunk of money because he trusted the wrong authority. He was watching YouTube when an ad popped up with promoting a new cryptocurrency. The ad looked like it was coming from an influencer he already followed and trusted. He thought, if this guy is backing it, it must be legit. So he invested heavily. But here's the twist. The influencer had nothing to do with it. The ad was a scam and someone pretending to be him. The project disappeared and so did my friend's money. And this is an isolated case. Think about Germany's Wirecard scandal. Once one of the country's most celebrated fintech firm. For years, the charismatic CEO Markus Braun projected confidence and success, backed by big name banks and auditors. In 2020, it all collapsed into the biggest corporate fraud in German history. Investors who trusted the authorities behind Wirecard lost billions. So authority, whether it's an influencer, a CEO, or so-called expert, doesn't guarantee truth. Daniel Kahneman, who won the Nobel Prize in economics for his work on decision-making, showed that even experts fall victim to biases. And research by Philip Tetlock found that expert forecasters often perform barely better than chance. In other words, intelligence and authority don't protect you from being wrong. So how do you protect yourself? Check for conflicts of interest. Does this person benefit if you follow their advice? Compare multiple sources. Don't stop at one opinion. Seek out diverse perspectives. Verify the source. Ads, impersonations, and scams are everywhere. Don't assume a trusted face equals trusted advice. Understand the risks yourself. If you can't clearly explain how you might lose money, you don't understand the investment well enough to make it. Authority should inform your decisions, not replace them. Let's bust a myth. Financial success barely comes from one big break. It actually comes from something far less exciting. Small, consistent choices that compound over time. Take investing. Dave Ramsey's national study of millionaires looked at over 10,000 millionaires and found that the vast majority didn't strike it rich through a single lucky investment, inheritance, or risky bet. Instead, they built wealth the slow, steady way, by saving diligently, investing consistently, and diversified in things like 401ks and letting time and compounding do the heavy lifting. Or think about habits. James Clear, author of Atomic Habits, calls habits the compound interest of self-improvement. A tiny decision today, like saving $50 a week, skipping on one impulse purchase, or learning one new financial concept, compounds into freedom later. Here's a reframe. Ask yourself, what's one small choice I can make today that future me will thank me for? Some examples could be setting up an auto transfer to savings, cooking dinner at home one more night a week, spending 10 minutes learning about index funds before scrolling on TikTok. Individually, these moves feel small, but stacked daily, they can completely change your financial trajectory. Smart people stay broke because they wait for the big opportunity. Wise people get rich by stacking small wins. But there's one more thing that makes it crucial for those sound financial decisions. I've seen this over and over. People don't lose money because they can do the math. They lose money because they can't manage their emotions. During the 2008 crash, many smart investors sold their stocks at the bottom out of fear. They were locking in losses that could have been recovered. The same thing happened during the pandemic when markets dropped 30% in weeks. Those who panicked sold low. Those who managed their emotions and stayed the course recovered and even made some profit. That's why emotional intelligence is key, because it shapes your financial intelligence. Daniel Goleman, the psychologist that popularized emotional intelligence, breaks it down into skills like self-awareness, self-regulation, and empathy. And when it comes to money, those skills are everything. Here's how you can practice it. Pause before reacting. When you feel anxious or euphoric, don't make decisions immediately. Separate facts from feelings. Write down what you know is true versus what you're afraid of. Check the 5-year test. Ask, what would my karma self thank me for in 5 years? Because at the end of the day, building wealth isn't just about numbers. It's about mastering yourself. I know it was quite a lot of information and can be really overwhelming in the beginning, but I hope it will help you on your way to financial freedom. I myself am still learning and growing with all of you. And if you want to know more about how to use money as a tool to design a meaningful life, watch these videos up here. If you found this video helpful, it would mean the world to me if you give this video a thumbs up, hit the notification bell as well as the subscribe button, and join the community as it grows. So see you next time. Bye.